Hello, everyone. This is Carrie Brummer here of Artists Strong, and you are watching Feedback Friday. Feedback Friday is a weekly show I'm hosting throughout the fall and winter, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, to offer artists support in feedback on development of works in progress, of finished artworks, of strategies for building skill, for feedback on their artist websites, and more. Hi, Tia. I'm glad to have you here. So I am here to help you guys find the resources and information and feedback that you need to grow your art, to make the art you really feel called to create. And that's what this show's about. What's great about this too is you can learn from all of the feedback, even if it's not feedback for your original artwork. If you would like specific feedback on your work, you can email me, Carrie@artiststrong.com, or you can message me through the Facebook page, images of your work or links to your website, and I can give you that feedback in a future Feedback Friday. Hi, Angela. So glad to see you guys popping on and joining me today. So we've got several artworks to look at today. We've got quite a few. Last week, lots of people in the Facebook group were very generous in giving me a lot of art and websites to look at. So I don't want to waste any more of our time. I want to dig in. So I'm going to remove our banner here, see if I can keep track of all of the things I need to do. And I'm going to share my screen here. So you're probably seeing something that's a little wonky right now, but now you should probably see a picture of an owl on the screen. And I'm going to make sure I can see your comments too. That way, if we're chatting and you're joining me live, you can continue the conversation with me. And of course, if you watch this replay, I'd love you to also share your input and ideas for the artwork we look at. So last week, Patricia was very nice to share a beautiful fabric design. So this is a textile work. This is an owl that she found on the web, and she used fabric and quilting for the designs. And she calls herself Dusty. So Dusty's been looking for feedback. She didn't give us the nature of the feedback on this work. So first off, I personally love owls. A little random known fact, I actually had an owl as a ring bearer in my wedding. So I have a particular affinity for this particular creature. So I actually think this is absolutely adorable and wonderful. I love the use of colors in this. And also her line choices for the quilting part really add a sense of character and dimension to this character. So there's a few things I want us to do. So I'm going to actually look at him now over on Photoshop, where we can look at him in black and white just to see what we see. Hi, Marianne. Glad to have you here today. So something that I noticed straight away, we have some strong whites, right? So we have a strong contrast of white, and there's some nice heavy darks that are immediately next to the whites on the surface of this image. Why don't I get something to draw with here so that we can look at that a little more clearly? And maybe I'll pick a different color. We don't always associate red with the happiest of mark making. Here we go. Okay, so I really like these like strong highlights in here, and how there's a really nice dark contrast immediately next to it. I think that's quite nice. Something I do notice is, aside from kind of those two tones, everything else appears to be a similar shade of gray. So for a future quilting work, she might consider thinking about adding maybe 2 steps of gray. So instead of all of these being kind of the same level of gray, what if kind of parts of the wings or parts of the body, or even just the background itself, was a different step in terms of its values, the value scale. And for those of you who don't remember, a value scale is basically a tonal gradation. So it steps from white to black along a scale that you create. It's kind of like a little step ladder, a visual step ladder of light to dark. And when you have more gradations from light to dark, sometimes that's seen as a way to kind of suss out your artwork and decide if you're finished or not when you're working on something. So I do think that if she looked at her colors, her value scale in future works, that would even take this work to another level. The only other comment I have, I love her use of color, and especially when we do see it in color, I think all of the colors really harmonize well together. That blue has a beautiful kind of standing out quality, but it doesn't dominate the image either. Yeah, there's beautiful color harmony in this. Marianne says different color quilting threads too. Yeah, and I think that's also a really smart decision. How nice to see that in kind of up here, kind of with the feathers in the head, and how it allows kind of these lines to show up more. I think that's a really, really smart idea too. I really, really like that. The only other thought that I have for Dusty to think about, and for anyone else, is she said she found this image off the internet and decided to quilt it. Well, as long as this is for personal use and she did it for fun and she doesn't intend on selling it, that's totally fine. But there is a question of ethics if we were to sell this work using an image that comes from someone else, especially if the image is not royalty free. You can find royalty free images online that give you essentially free rights to use those images however you like. But if this was a photograph or a design or an icon or some kind of cartoon image from someone else, then they actually own the copyright to this image. So if someone was to try to sell this quilt, that could be problematic. And in fact, the person who originally designed the owl could choose to pursue legal action. So that's something we don't always think about when we're inspired and in the moment and looking at images. And I don't know that that was Dusty's intention. She might have found this image, been inspired, and wanted to make this art quilt for her home. So that's totally fine to do. And it's also a great way to build skill and experiment with different techniques, is to use the images that inspire you most. But it is important to be mindful about where we source the image references we use and whether we have legal rights to use them, especially when it comes to selling. Again, if it's for personal use, you have the right to use the image more or less. So, and of course, I'm not a lawyer, so don't assume, always consult with lawyers or look at kind of laws according to your state or province or wherever you are in the world for stuff related to copyright law. Thank you again, Dusty. This owl is awesome. I love him or her so very much. Again, the design quality is gorgeous, and it's really nice to see some textile artists sharing their work in the community. I've had a few share with me sometimes that they feel like they don't fit because they don't paint, so some of the critique feels different to them, or they don't feel like it will apply to them. So I'd love more people who do things that they kind of deem more as crafty, so to speak, share their work so I can show more people how working in all kinds of media that you can get quality feedback to inform your artistic decisions. So thank you again, Dusty, for that wonderful opportunity to share. So our next work is by Melody, and she was asking, do I want a background for box or standalone? I'm not entirely sure what she meant by that. I'm going to take a guess, and she also has a website for us to look at today. So we're going to start first with this image. I like the background white, and I don't usually say that. Yeah, it's not usually my typical response when it comes to white backgrounds in artworks. I often feel like people leave the white because they don't know what to do with the background. I especially love it here. I love how there's like a transparency and there's this slow transition to white here. So that makes me feel like it's very mindful and part of it. And because this area is white, I don't think it's bad to leave the sky white, though I could see kind of just a flat, bold color filling in the background here and then having this kind of transition to white. But I also wonder about cropping it a bit more, and maybe that's part of what Melody was saying. So let's try that real quick. Let's try cropping this a bit for compositional decision making and see if we like it more or less. I think I want this to be a little higher. Yeah, I'm going to take it about there, and then we'll open a new image and take a look. Yeah. So personally, I think you can see already, negative space is the space that surrounds your object of focus. And it's as important as whatever you draw or paint or stitch in your artwork. So the negative space already above and below the landscape has a little more visual interest now because the shape is different. So there's a really nice kind of flowing shape here, and this doesn't block off in like any kind of really heavy way. And that's a really important heart of this, of any composition, is to think about how that negative space kind of moves and how your eye travels through it. And I especially love how this kind of moves and transitions and softens out into the white space. So I think a crop here could really finish this artwork nicely. And if she was interested, again, the only area I'd consider filling in is up here. And I think I'd do a very muted, soft color that's somehow in harmony with the colors that she's already used on the surface of this artwork. But I love the colors that are currently used. That pink kind of stands out in a strong, a little bit startling way, because it's kind of, it matches these browns, but it's a cool color instead of the warm. And of course, like red and green are complementary colors, which means that they're opposite on the color wheel. So they also make each other stand out when you place them next to each other. And because she's got some softer greens, the pink and the soft green are complements. And so they both really pop. So yeah, I almost wonder, you know, like a very muted pink sky, like super, super soft pink, maybe almost like a grayish color, or just leave it. And I wouldn't do it on the actual artwork. I would probably fill in this area digitally first and see if I liked what it looked like digitally before I affected my artwork. So let's see if I can take like a muted tone from this, and then I'll get a big paintbrush and just fill in a bit and see what we think. I don't want to cover the work too much. Let's see. So obviously she'd not have the white marks next to this, but I don't really want to hide it much. Yeah, I don't know, kind of a super soft pink like that. I think that might even finish out the drawing even more. I could also see that kind of soft pink used, and then maybe it fades away up kind of the way it does down here. But I do think I like this like soft grayish pink filling in the background. I think that might even finish out this artwork even more for me. You guys will have to let me know what you think when you see this, either in the replay, or if you're watching live, you know, offer your feedback too. Remember, feedback is information that helps people make informed decisions for their own artwork. There is no real right or wrong answer, but there are rules to composition that I've spoken about, like I just did about negative space, that I think is valuable, for example. And we can use those rules of composition to help us make better decisions, or more informed decisions, or even just help us refine an artwork to make sure we're really confident it's finished. But in terms of something like this background color choice, I think this has a lot more to do with personal goal or aim for the artwork, and whether it internally kind of emotionally feels finished to the artist themselves. So that's something for Melody to think about. I think this work is quite beautiful. I really love her mark making and the transparency of some of the color in this, and her directional use of marks. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but you've got kind of some very vertical kind of mark making going on. And then you have some lovely horizontal mark making. And that also helps create the feeling of motion and space, and helps us move through the space, because the direction of the paintbrush can be very informative for that. So thank you so much, Melody, for that. And we're not going to save that. And now let's switch to her website. So let me find my link to all the websites here so we can make sure we can see it. And yeah, this is Melody's website. So let's start here. How are we doing for time? We've got like 15 more minutes. If I don't get to your work today, I will absolutely continue on next week offering feedback on artwork. And remember that this is always an opportunity for you to think about how you can apply these ideas or lessons to your own art. So the first thing I noticed on Melody's website, you know, she has a name, she has her name, and she has kind of a branding name for her website. There's part of me that wishes the Hideaway Art and Craft kind of filled this whole space instead of stayed in the middle. You know, there's a lot of blank space over here next to her shopping cart image, and it might be nice if that was filled out a bit more, if the Hideaway Art and Craft was there, and then Melody, I can't say her last name, I don't want to butcher it, was underneath. I do like that she has kind of this little artwork with Hideaway Art there too. It kind of ties into some branding idea. And then we come across her menu. So This is a little confusing to me. This is a menu option that says Shadowbox United States Hideaway R, which I think is supposed to be finished with art. So there's a word shortage here, so that's a little confusing, but it's also, I really don't know what she's telling me I would go click on here. And something we need in our menu is we want to make it very clear to people why they should go wherever they're going. You know, artist biography, I can very quickly go and I know I'm going to learn about her. Gallery, I'm going to be able to see artwork. Contact, I know I'm going to be able to reach out to her. And shop obviously also is very clear. So this is unclear to me. And it doesn't look like if I do anything, it lets me go anywhere. So I actually think this is the home page menu option, and it's highlighted because we're there. So I'm not sure. I think she should change this menu title to just say home, because that's confusing to me. And if people are confused, they're less likely to kind of continue through a website. It's really nice to see kind of a slideshow of different artworks. I like that you can kind of scroll through and look at work. It gives us a taste of the different works that she does. And it also gives me the impression she's very prolific. There's a lot of work here, and there seems to be some overarching themes of nature and maybe some collage assemblage kind of things. But there's definitely a lot going on. It might be nice to, I don't know if these are just images of works or if they take you somewhere. Let's click on one and see what happens. Okay, so then it'll take you and let you see the whole work. Well, so here it already says describe your image. So it might be nice to have some language around this, some text to help people learn more about the work. I could also see in some of these images, even some text on top that talks about the theme or kind of work to help people kind of go further. Connect with us, I can't click on it at all. So I guess that's meant to be a header. I don't know that we need it then, because this very clearly says upcoming events. So I don't need the connect with us section. I think it's great too to have an upcoming events page. It helps people who are local to you know what you're up to and where they can find you. I think that's a really smart idea. Yeah, lots of stuff going on here. And also connection to her Facebook so that you can follow her there, and the blog. So it's important to have your homepage kind of give people some places to keep digging further onto your website. So some kind of specific call to action here would be really good too. You know, so either maybe move this, change this from a connect with us header, put it above this image and say, look at some of the work, click to learn more, and then have that, you know, have this kind of moving scan underneath. The other thing I might do is at the very bottom, if people scroll all the way, instead of just having a name of the artist's blog, I would say, learn stories about my art by clicking here. I'm just coming up with really bad language right now in terms of making it enticing, but you want some kind of call to action, a word or some kind of language that says, click here, read more here, come visit me on Facebook, come visit Hideaway Art and Craft on Facebook, rather than just saying Hideaway Art and Craft on Facebook. It sounds silly, but having call to actions help people move through the website. So that's just some initial feedback that I would offer Melody. It's great to see her work immediately on the page. It gives us something to look at straight away and give a sense of the kind of art she makes so that we know what we're looking at or what we might get. And I like having the events. That makes me also think she's very focused on local connections and service and working, because if I'm someone who's living not in Denver, Colorado or nearby, then I might feel like, well, I'm not sure that she sells her art online, or if this is just a way to connect with people locally. So that's also something she can think about is, is there a way to make it clear that she has online sales, or it's open to both? But I do like the upcoming events on the homepage. I think I better stop there so I can get to more work this week, but I hope that gives Melody some ideas. It's great to see pictures. I'm really happy to see there's an image of her lovely smiling face on this. People want to know the artist, and if we don't have our face on our website, they can't really get to know us, and they may not feel that trust that they could feel otherwise. And part of having an online presence is to show or sell our art usually, and that means we need to build trust, and we can build trust by showing up as who we are. So thank you again, Melody. I hope this gives you some really good ideas for your website, and thank you for sharing your work with us. Okay. Whew, I need a sip of water here. I don't know if I'm going to get to all these images again. Okay. Beata also had a request for feedback on her website. I'm really sorry if I'm not saying your name correctly, Beata, but thank you for sharing your work with us. So let's go to her website. So that is here, Intuitive Paintings Hungary. So we go, okay, there's a use of cookies. We'll accept that. Now look, okay. So I like how clean kind of her header is. We see her name straight away. The color matches her links and her shopping cart, but then it leads us straight to kind of these pieces of information, her homepage menu, so that we know how to learn more about her. The first thing I would do is, it is a legal mandate to have a privacy policy on your website. You have to have one, but I would not put it in my menu because I don't really want, I mean, of course people can go find it and look at it if they want to, but I want them to be looking at my art. So instead of having it on the menu there, I would actually put it at the very bottom. See where it says here, her copyright and how it was created with Wix. I would put a link to the privacy policy there. That's actually where mine is on the bottom of my page of my website. And then I like about, again, terms and conditions could be a link at the very bottom. Contact obviously makes it clear we want to talk to her. FAQ, I'm not quite sure what the frequently asked questions would be, but I've seen them on multiple artist websites, so that's good too. If we have a question, we know we can go there. Sign up is a call to action, but it's unclear what I'm signing up for. So it might be like join the community, join the newsletter, some kind of call to action that's a little more specific. Or she says she has a free ebook called Soul Whispers. So instead of sign up, I might even say, get my free ebook. To lead people to this page where she's clearly introducing herself. She has a lovely photo of her working and she's talking about why and how she does her work. And so then you know what you're joining, and it might lead people more to her sign up for her email list. Let's go back to home. I do really like here that we have kind of a small example of works immediately on the homepage too. People like to see people's art straight away. It gives us a sense of kind of what people are presenting on the website, which is really handy. And I really like too, it looks like if you hover over them, some of them have a description of the artwork that you can read about. So you know if you want to click more, you can. So I'm going to click view more on abstract art. It's also really wise that she has her artwork as it looks like it's hanging above furniture. It gives people a sense of the size and shape, and people can then imagine it better in their own home. That's a really good strategy. So here, right, we've got some names, we've got pictures. It's nice. You can do a quick view and you can kind of see a close-up of the artwork or another view of the artwork. And she has a price straight away, which also is helpful if you're really focusing on selling the work. Oh, I like Mystic Breeze. Let's look at that one. Okay, so really nice. There's a kind of description here, so we know that we can move in to see the artwork more closely. And this is a really nice feature because if we're looking for people to invest in our art, it's nice for us to see the details like those little drips and just the brush strokes. That's a really nice touch. I like that she has kind of add to cart here. I actually use the phrase, I think, invest, or I'm not sure actually. Let's look real quick. Our language and call to actions, again, can be really helpful for framing the decisions that people make around their investment in art, pun intended. So let's look at my Wanderlust gallery and just see what call to action I use on my button. Okay, we'll look at this artwork. Okay, I say purchase now. So I don't know. I think that's pretty much the same. I was thinking here for price, I said investment. Nicola Wise Sturt designed the template or the layout of my website, and she used the word investment. And I really like it because I'm trying to focus on that notion of fine art, which made me think of it too, because that's something Beata has on her website. But I think add to cart's totally fine. Shipping policy, good. She's linked to her terms and conditions. We've got a typo here, so it's always helpful periodically to reread some of our descriptions. It's also good to have spaces. So after a couple of sentences, creating a new paragraph makes it easier for people to read, just to break up the text. And it's really nice to see she has kind of clear shipping costs. And something I just noted by accident, I did not see that text because it was white. And here it is, a description about the artwork, which I also think is really important and helpful. And I didn't know it was there because it's in white text. So that's something she might want to tweak on her website. So yeah, I really like that she's kind of clearly figurative art, abstract work. Her homepage gives us a taste of her art. I think all of that's really nice and gives us a sense of what she's offering on her website. And she has a blog as well. And that's a great way to bring people to your website, is to share stories about your art on a blog and share those across social media or places like Pinterest, which will help lead people to your website. So thank you very much, Beata, for sharing your work with us. I hope you guys will take a peek at her website as well. And I do, again, just real quick, I like how you have a quick kind of start to a blog post so you know what you might be reading about, and you've got an artwork that you get to look at so you know where you're going and what you want to do in terms of a reader or a viewer coming to the website. Well, guys, I thought I would get to a lot more artwork this week, but we have a lot more on the list that I was not yet able to get to. Let's see real quick if I can help this. No, I'd like to wait, I think, Cynthia, until next week to give you that feedback. So I've got 4 of you left that I didn't get to today, that I will aim to give you that feedback next Friday. Let's close this out, and I'll put myself on the screen briefly again to say hi and wrap things up. So think about lessons today. How do we move through a website on our art? Kind of what tweaks can we make, or adding calls to action to help people take action to dig through and look further in our websites. When it comes to composition, and design or finishing our artwork, testing out like a free Photoshop program like GIMP, or if you have Photoshop, filling in the background with a different color and looking at it first on a screen before you make that final edit, or even testing crops like I did, can be a really helpful way to help you decide if a work is finished. And just remembering, again, art critique does not mean pointing out all the things that's bad or wrong with your art. It's actually about getting information to help you feel the right decision is being made for your work. And that's because you take in all this information from other people, you digest it, and then you come back and decide what really fits my goal or aim for this work. And then you get to decide and finish that work. If you get some feedback on one of these episodes and you have a finished work to celebrate after that feedback, I would love for you to share it with us. I love to share the before and afters so that people can see the feedback you received and then see where you decided to go with that artwork. So thank you to everyone who is here. If you enjoy this kind of feedback and support, this is a taste of the kind of support you can get inside my mastermind community called The Circle. It's a 6-month program for artists who are looking for a group of artists to work alongside, who can offer support and their own experience, because everyone's at a different stage in their art, but they're looking to either find their voice or build that portfolio, or even they're building websites and trying to refine them. That's kind of the different stages that are in the community. And we all guide each other on our own art to figure those things out and have this kind of support. Signups registration is open until the end of this year. Program starts January 4th, 2019. So if you're interested, be sure to replays up. So my screen just popped. I don't know if everything's okay here. I hope we're okay. So that being said, guys, thank you so much for being part of this community. I look forward to seeing more of your art and celebrating the wonderful achievements you have in your art in future Feedback Fridays, if not in the Facebook group or on Instagram. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great weekend.